have a question for you. What on earth does jaywalking and addiction have in common? Hi everyone, this is Gina. Welcome to my channel, Hope and Cope, where we talk about how to live our best life in spite of the painful and tragic choices of those that we love. So I asked you a question. Do you know what they have in common? Okay, so in the Alcoholics Big Book, which I have read cover to cover more than once, I highly recommend you get it and read it. It'll be very helpful to you. There is an analogy in there that is between the insanity of the first sober drink and jaywalking. So the story begins, he starts by telling a story about a gentleman that after a period of successful abstinence, where he had regained some of his prior qualities back. He had regained his position and his family, some stability with his income, was sitting in a pretty good spot. He goes to a cafe and he orders, he just goes in to order a sandwich, but then he thinks, well, I bet if I order my sandwich with a whiskey and drink that whiskey with milk, it will not affect me in a negative way. So he orders a whiskey and a milk and he mixes them and he drinks them, and of course no immediate response. So he does this 2 or 3 times until of course then he's obliterated, and his crazy concoction that he thought was going to rescue him from the effects of the alcohol were completely ineffective, and he, just his whole alcoholism spirals back out of control, and he's right back where he started with, the loss of his job, the loss of his integrity, the loss of his family. And so the discussion that Bill takes on is, what is the insanity? How do we reconcile the insanity of that first sober drink? So, and I do want to just state real quickly here, this is not the topic of this video, but there is a difference between sobriety and abstinence. Abstinence is just a period of time without drinking. It doesn't have to mean at all that there's been any emotional recovery or mental recovery or any kind of stability going on at all. It can just mean like gritting your teeth and you're not drinking, or using. So there is a distinction between sobriety, which is hopefully a period of time where you are in a state of recovery, and then abstinence. So this person had a stint of abstinence and then came up with this crazy concoction that he thought was going to work and rescue him from the effects of the whiskey, and of course it didn't, and then he goes right back to square one. And so Bill uses this analogy of a jaywalker. So the analogy starts like this. There's a gentleman, and he really gets his thrills from rushing through fast-moving traffic, jaywalking, not waiting, at the light till the light turns, and he's rushing through and getting to the other side unscathed. And this is what he does for excitement. And, his family thinks it's kind of odd. They're a little concerned. They give him several friendly warnings that this is not healthy behavior and maybe you're going to have some consequences. And those warnings just go unheeded. And then, he has his first accident where he's actually hit, and he has some scrapes and some bumps, but he doesn't quit, and this goes on. He continues the dangerous behavior of jaywalking, and he feels like it's a choice, that he can do it when he wants and he can stop when he wants, although he's getting hit more and more scrapes and bumps and bruises. And then one day when he's jaywalking, he gets a broken arm. So at this point, you would think that people would think twice about this behavior and really want to quit. Then he gets hit again and he gets a head injury. And as soon as he gets out of the hospital, he goes right back to this unhealthy, dangerous behavior. And so then he gets out of the hospital. He says he's never going to do it again. But in short order, he's back to the jaywalking, and he gets hit and breaks both of his legs. And he's back in the hospital. At this point, you would think he'd had enough. You would think he would stop. But unfortunately, no. This dangerous behavior goes on for years and years and years. And it goes on until, sadly, he has just lost everything. His family, his income, his integrity, his mental well-being. He's just lost everything. So then, out of desperation, he tries institutions. He tries recovery centers. He tries all kinds of things to make himself stop, but all to no avail. This person has spent years between hospitals, asylums, prisons. He's a shell of the person he used to be, and he's in his last stint in an asylum, and the day he gets out, he rushes back into traffic and sadly is hit by a fire truck and breaks his back. As sad as this story is, there's really nothing redeeming about it. It just helps people to understand the insanity of the first drink. You can take that drink completely sober, meaning there's no addictive substance in your body to warp your mentality. It is just the insanity of the mind. The insanity of the mind that says, no one will know, I won't get caught, I won't drink to the point people can tell, I won't miss work, I won't lose my job, I won't drive drunk. All these things that they will tell themselves over and over and over again, even though the evidence is highly, highly stacked against them. So I know this is a sad story. It is just a fictitious story, but it is a parallel to us of the insanity of our loved ones and why they continue to go back to the first drink when they should know that it's going to cause their life to spiral out of control. So I hope that analogy just helps you just a little bit to understand the mental part of the drink, that first drink. I think I've told this in prior videos, but I've had it expressed to me like it is the desire for oxygen. When our lives are great and we have a million things on our horizon, none of them are the next breath, just the next breath. But if we have our oxygen restricted, then our breath becomes priority one. And nothing is more important than that next breath. And we have to get that in check. We have to get that under control before we can go on to priority 2 or 3 or 4, even if those things are incredibly, incredibly important. So that is where that your first drink or that first hit or whatever it is, that is how that gets elevated in their mind. It gets so far elevated that they're really not thinking about all the other consequences. They really get like this tunnel vision, just this teeny tiny tunnel vision. That's all they can see is their desperate need for that next drink. They can't see the way it's going to devastate their families, their children, jeopardize their job, or maybe they're on probation. All the things that would be enough to stop anybody without an addiction, it's not enough for them. So I hope this analogy helps you. I hope it brings a measure of understanding and compassion to you so that you don't take these things so personally, and so you can stop trying to figure out why, when it's just this disease of the mind and there's no real rhyme or reason. And which does take me back to the beginning where I talked about how important it is for it to be real recovery and not just a stint of abstinence. Because that stint of abstinence, it could just be like that, like I said, that grin and bear it, or that grit and bear it, to where they're just making it, they're just gutting out every day, and they're not enjoying their life, and they're not being able to get where they're not thinking about that addiction with every waking moment. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, I would appreciate if you would like and share, and know that I'm always praying for you. I want the best for you. And until next time, God bless.